The time is just gone 8:38 as we continue with the broadcast this morning. Taking a look now at Saudi Arabia normalization with Israel, and we've learned about the Saudi envoy cancelling the trip to Masjid al-Aqsa after backlash over this possible deal. And what does this postponement actually mean? Because Palestinians have been critical of many who have been visiting Saudi Palestine, but have normalized deals with Israel. And clearly, this is seen as validating the Israeli occupation of East Jerusalem, Al Quds, and Masjid al Aqsa. And we're joined now by geopolitical analyst Zaakir Ahmed Mayet. Zaakir, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome as always.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and shukran for having me on the show this morning.
Well, Zakir, as we've seen in the past, those that have normalized relations with Israel, and we've seen the concerns that have been raised by Palestinians over these normalization treaties or deals, and we've seen it even in the past with the likes of the UAE when they get into Masjid al-Aqsa, escorted by Israeli security forces through different entrances. Now, Saudi Arabia. Now, this is the heartland of Islam, the two holiest sites that they are in charge of as well, custodians of the holy sites as well. Now looking at the third Haram, Masjid al Aqsa, wanting to visit Masjid al Aqsa, but clearly this hasn't been easy for Saudi Arabia considering the possible backlash.
Definitely, we saw similar reactions with the Moroccan delegation coming to Masjid al-Aqsa. The Palestinian position is one that is very clear. The Palestinians have moved away from structures of secularism. They've moved away from issues of diplomacy because it's very clear. Today, we look at a period of time, it's 30 years since the Oslo agreements, and what has that produced? The renunciation of the armed struggle, the move towards non-violence, the move towards diplomatic means have only created more settlements, loss of further land for the Palestinians, and greater hardship. Therefore, the Palestinians have adopted a different approach that they will restore their dignity through isolation of the state of Israel as well as through arms. And that is what we are seeing in the West Bank. We're seeing movements like Lions Den, the Balata Brigades, we're seeing it with the Jenin battalions, the Nablus Brigades. This is the position of the Palestinians. Therefore, just gauging on the approach that they have taken, it comes as no surprise that they would condemn, reject, and actually force out any individuals that have normalized or intend normalizing with the Zionist entity. There is no reason for the state to be normalized with. Israel is on the verge of a collapse. We have never seen this fracture as deep as it has occurred now. And therefore, I believe that there is a miscalculation on the part of the Saudi government to try and establish any form of relations with the Zionist entity.
Yes. Also, Zakir, this comes against the interview that Mohammed bin Salman had done, where he spoke at length about Saudi, about the negotiations with Israel, but very little as far as the Palestinians are concerned in terms of the human rights specifics, raising concerns for some Palestinians. And this is what Palestinians are saying, that for us the Palestinian issue is a very important issue. It's a sensitive issue, but at the end of the day, they wanted to see a lot more come out from the like of Mohammed bin Salman, and that has been disappointing as well.
I think we have to look at the Saudi Israel normalization through four different categories. I was having difficulty myself trying to determine what is the actual game plan here and what's the driving interest. And when you look at it according to four different spheres, it makes more sense. So there's the country itself and the policy of the country of Saudi Arabia. There's the moral issue, there's the Palestinian issue, and there's the security issue. When we look at the establishment of the country itself, Saudi Arabia, we must understand its history, and the listeners should look into the history, is that it was founded on the betrayal of the Khilafat, the Ottoman Khilafat. And this is commented on by Professor Tariq Suwedan, where he speaks of the Islamic history and he speaks of how the Arabs of the Arabian Peninsula, and this is different, the history of the Arabian Peninsula is different from the country of Saudi Arabia. We need to understand that Islamically we have a love for the land of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but that's not Saudi Arabia. That's the Arabian Peninsula. The country itself of Saudi Arabia was established as a monarchy. There's a family that runs it. It's the family of Al Saud. It's even in the name of the country, and they have a certain set of policies. And a lot can be said about the country, but what we know about its foreign policy and its positioning is that it's always been an extension of Western interests. We've seen exactly this when you look in modern history. You look at, for example, Desert Storm, where there was an offer by the Mujahideen to come and protect Saudi Arabia. Instead, they opted for foreign forces from the Western world. We know that during the hostage crisis that took place within the Haramain, it was foreign forces, French forces, that momentarily converted to Islam just to allow themselves into the into the masjid, and then thereafter they renounced Islam again. It's these ridiculous attempts to try and wash over the Islamic aspects. The involvement in Imam Anwar al-Awlaki's assassination, the drone came from Saudi Arabia, or the WikiLeaks indication that in 2012 there was a leak that they had an agreement with Israel that they would utilize the airspace to attack Iran. So you have all of these connections that supply fuel to the Western world. You have the connection where it extends the interests of the Western world through Saudi Arabia. Then when you look at the moral issue, now the moral issue is very different. And this is exactly what Mr. Wadi is exactly talking about. The moral issue is that the custodians of the Haramain should not be siding with an oppressive regime that is currently occupying Masjid al-Aqsa, that was the first Qibla. That is a moral issue. But the moral issue, and this is the unfortunate situation that we are dealing with in the current day and age, is that for some reason, both locally and abroad, the Muslim community feels that the principles, values are divisible from action in Islam. The values of Islam, the principles of Islam, you can remove it, you can select from it in your interactions, be it foreign policy, business, etc. So this is the unfortunate disease that even the Saudis are clearly involved with and have been afflicted by. The final aspects is the Palestinian issue, and we touched briefly on it as the way they see it. The Palestinians are clearly against any form of normalization. It is a stab in the back for the Palestinians to try and normalize with Israel. Although the Saudi regime has had very close connections to Israel for a long time, there is clandestine connections between the two. However, it hasn't been put into the public domain as with the Abraham Accords and many of the other countries. And the final aspect is the security aspect. We see Saudi Arabia basically forum shopping. They're trying to get a deal out of the Western world, and I batch the United States and Israel in the Western world. And they are also eating on the same table with the BRICS countries. We know that there's parliamentary committees taking place at the moment here in Johannesburg, the BRICS nations, and I'm fully aware that the Saudi delegation has met the Iranian delegation, for example. So it's a very confusing situation, but it seems to be economics, geopolitics, and basically it comes down to who gives the better deal. And in the process, the Palestinians may be on the losing end of that deal.
Yes, Zakir, and over and above the four issues that you've unpacked, it's also about personalities, because it is clear that MBS has made the statement that Riyadh would work with any Israeli leader, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, these are the people that you are prepared to work with. You know that this is a hate-filled ultra-right government, and it's not only about Netanyahu; it's about everybody else, all the right-wing parties within Israel. Yet, brave enough, I would say, to make a statement that you are prepared to work with any leader.
Yeah, I find these comments particularly disturbing because when we look at the makeup of the Israeli regime at the moment, even by Israeli standards, this is an unacceptable makeup. It's the most right-wing government they've ever had. You have individuals like Benjamin Netanyahu, and he's been prime minister on and off for a while. He's not new to the field. However, those that he's aligned with and the coalition that he's formed is with Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich. If you look at Etimar Ben-Gvir, Etimar is a lawyer, and he was the same individual that represented the two murderers of the Dawabshi family. The Dawabshi family, as many listeners and viewers would remember, Ahmed Dawabshi was burned. He's the little Palestinian boy whose house was torched and he lost his parents. So this gives you an indication of the type of individual that we are dealing with, who represented them and tried to remove any form of legal sanction from these murders. The second part of this is that Etimar Ben-Gvir, and this comes from the former defense minister Moshe Yaalon. Moshe Yaalon admits as well that Etimar Ben-Gvir had a picture of Baruch Goldstein, the individual who massacred worshippers in the Ibrahimi mosque as they prayed. He had a poster of this man in his lounge, in his sitting area. So this is an indication of the type of individuals that we are dealing with. They are clearly anti-Palestinian. They are anti-Arab. They are pushing for an apocalypse according to Israeli sources themselves. And this comes again from Moshe Bogi alone. So this gives you an indication of what we are dealing with. Bezalel Smotrich is cut of the same cloth. And for MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, to make comments that they will work with any form of leadership is very disturbing. And this goes back to the point that I'm making, is that for some reason we are afflicted by this disease, that the law of Islam, the law of Allah, it can be divided, that you can choose, you can pick and choose what you want to follow, and it becomes morally acceptable to only follow certain things. It is an instruction that every Muslim is engaged in a state of warfare to fight against oppression, no matter whether it is Muslim or non-Muslim. That is the basic principle of Islam. That is our role, that is our function. Many of us search for meaning in life, but that is the meaning that you are established to put forward justice and truth on the earth. Whereas now we look at the geopolitical play that is taking place here within the Saudi-Israeli context, and it is very clear that it's lost its moral compass completely.
Well, Zakir, we're going to have to leave it at that. I know you and I can engage a lot more on this particular topic, but unfortunately, time is of the essence. But for now, we say Jazakallah to you for your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Zaakir Ahmed Mayet, unpacking this whole question surrounding Saudi Arabia and a normalization with Israel. We're going to go for a break. We come back. Ed Queenie Sikio up next.